Hi everyone, this is Ryan, and in this lesson I'll be showing you how to work with hyperlinks. Hyperlinks form a critical part of any website, and anything that you can click on really is a hyperlink at the end of the day. So let's go and have a look at our W3 schools, at our HTML tag reference, and the A tag is the one that we're going to be using for hyperlink, and A is short for anchor. Anchor is just another word for a hyperlink. And you'll notice an example over here. There's an opening tag and a closing tag. The text that is underlined on the web page will be in between the opening and closing tag. And then we also have a property known as href, which is short for hyperlink reference. And this is where we put the web address of where we want the hyperlink to go. So let's have a look at some of the properties that come with the hyperlink. Href, hyperlink reference, as we mentioned already. And then target is another one we're going to look at just now. So let's begin by creating some hyperlinks. So the A tag is what we call an inline tag, so that means it needs to be inside of a block level tag. So I'm just going to create a paragraph, and I'm going to say see our, then I'm going to create a link, open the A tag. It's going to have a hyperlink reference. This is going to be an internal link, so it's going to go to one of my existing pages. See our tables page. So notice how the word tables has been underlined as the hyperlink. If I put the word page inside here as well, then page would also be underlined as part of the hyperlink. And notice the color of the link is currently purple. This just indicates that I have been to that page before. Later on we'll learn how we can change those colors using CSS. So if I click on this link, that will take me to my tables page. And I could, if I wanted to, easily open my tables page and create a link back to my hyperlinks page. So here's the code for my tables page. Let me just create a paragraph with a hyperlink that goes to hyperlinks.html. Okay, notice how we've got that link up here. If I click on it, it takes me to the tables page, to the hyperlinks page. If I click on that link, it takes me back to the tables page. And that's really what a navigation is all about. It's just a whole bunch of links on every page of your website. So that's an internal link. Now let's do an example of an external link. An external link looks very similar, except that the hyperlink reference part will go to an external website. So let's go to Google, and I'll just say go to Google. Actually, I want to do this on my, not on this page, but rather on my hyperlinks page. So if I click on go to Google, it opens up the Google website. So what's important here is that you need to put the HTTP or the HTTPS : before the web address. You can't just say google.com, because then it's going to try and see that within your own website as opposed to an external website. So it's critical to have the HTTPS or the HTTP with a colon and a / before the web address. Most websites do not need the www. Another thing is, you'll notice that when I click on the hyperlink, it replaces this screen with the Google website, and then I have to go back to get to my hyperlinks page. It might be a good idea to actually open the link up in a new tab, and we do that by using a property known as target. So we'll set that to a value of _blank. Now when I click on the link, notice that it opened in a new tab, and I still have the original hyperlinks tab open in the browser. Let's do that one more time. New tab has been opened. The advantage of this is that if you have links to external sites on your website, you can actually allow the user to go and visit those links, but when they're finished, still have your website open in one of their previous tabs. And this way we don't lose visitors completely from our site. Another example of a hyperlink is a mail to link. So if I open up the anchor tag, in my hyperlink reference property, I could put a mail to and then an email address. So let me just make up an address. And then I'll say, put my email address here. So by saying mail to colon, that's a special protocol. And when you click the link, it actually opens up your email client, whatever that may be. In my case, I'm using Thunderbird. So after a few moments, it should open up my email program. And notice how it has composed an email automatically to that address. You can also include the subject in the email. So now when I click the link, it composes a message, but it also embeds the subject into the mail. You can even include the body of the email by adding an ampersand with the word body and then the message. So now it's included that into the email. So while this is a nice feature, it does have a serious problem associated with it, and that is it tends to attract spammers. Spammers use special software to go scour the internet and search the source code of all websites for this word mail to. And then it just takes the email address to the right of that and puts it into a database. And before you know it, you'll end up with a lot of spam. So my suggestion would be, if you do choose to use this option, that you use an email address that you are happy to get spam at. Otherwise, a better option may be to use a form instead of a hyperlink to send an email. The next type of link we can have is a download link. So you could put the name of a file, like a PDF document, or a exe file or a zip file, or whatever type of file you want to host on your website, and then you can actually provide a link to it for people to download. So in this case, I haven't got a PDF in my current directory to test this with, but if I clicked it, it would actually either open up the PDF in the current browser or it would download it to my machine. Then another type of link that we get is a picture as a hyperlink. So I would use my href as per usual. This time I'll go to my bullets.html page. But instead of putting the text here like I would normally do, I'm actually going to put an image. So because the image is now surrounded by anchor tags, we should see the image coming up, but it's clickable. So I click the picture and it takes me to my bullets page. Okay, that's quite a large image. Probably would need to resize it. Then the last type of links we get are fragment anchors. So I'm going to clean out this code and start from scratch for fragment anchors. So Fragment Anchor would be almost like a table of contents on a page. When you click on a link, it scrolls you down further in the page. So in order for us to test this, we're going to need a page that scrolls. So what I'm going to do is just quickly create some content of paragraphs. So I'll just create about 10 paragraphs of lorem text. If I have a look at what this looks like now, there you can see I've got my 10 paragraphs. And then I'm just going to create some subheadings at various places. So I'll have a subheading here called section 1. And I'll do the same for various points within the document. This will be section 2, section 3, section 4, and so on. Okay, so now we need a table of contents. So here we're going to create a couple of hyperlinks. So I just will make, let's say, 4 hyperlinks. And then I'm going to link to hashtag S1 for section 1. And that means this hashtag will be familiar to you when we worked with IDs in CSS. And in fact, in HTML, we can also then give an ID attribute to an HTML tag. I'm going to call it S1. So notice here we have hashtag S1, here we have S1. So what will happen is this means jump to an ID of S1. So when we click the section 1 hyperlink, it's going to scroll me down to this point within the document. So then I will do the same thing with all the others as well. Let's just copy paste. And we need to then give IDs to different parts in the page as well. Each ID has to be unique. So I just did the first 4 sections. Okay, so just to recap, we've got a table of contents of hyperlinks. And within that we have hashtag links. These don't link to normal HTML files, they're just linking within the same page. So now if I click section 1, notice how it scrolls me down to that point in the page. Also notice that it's added the hashtag S1 into the URL. If I scroll back up, click section 2, the URL has changed to hashtag S2 and it's jumped me to that part within the document. Same with section 3 and section 4. So this is quite a nice tool to use, fragment anchors, and we use them whenever we have a page that scrolls a lot and we need a nice table of contents. Now let's learn how to add a bit of CSS to our hyperlinks. So we're going to switch over to our CSS file, and let me try and have this open at the same time. So in CSS we have the A anchor, the A tag, which we know is an anchor tag. So for example, I could set the color to red and then all the colors should change to red. But hyperlinks have a lot more than just one thing. So for example, we have 4 different properties of hyperlinks. A hyperlink can be in the link state, and it can also be in the visited state. It can also be in the active state, and it can also be in the hover state. So let's recap. If it's purple, it means it's in the visited state. That means we've been to that link before. So if I just clear my history, these will all turn blue again. Let me just do that quickly. So I'm going to go to my settings and I'm going to search for history, and I'm going to clear my browsing history. Let's just clear history. So now if I go back and I refresh, notice all the links are blue again, indicating I've never visited these links before. So this blue color is actually the link state of the hyperlink. So let me set that to a value of green. And then if I refresh, you'll notice it turns green. Remember, purple means visited. So let me just change that one to have a value of red. Okay, then we also have the active state, which by default is red. You can't see it now, but if we to, let's say, yellow, when you click but you don't release the mouse, it turns yellow. And then we also have the hover state, which will actually only come into play when you hover your mouse over a link. So now you can see what's happening here. So what I normally do is I don't bother with the active state or with the visited state. So I normally just set all the states together. Let's set them to, for example, black. So now they're all black regardless. And then I normally override the hover state and make something different with that. So there's a couple of things people do. One option is to set the text decoration. So if we go back to our CSS reference, the text decoration is what we use to underline our text. So we can set that to overline, line through, or underline. Or we can even set it to a value of none. So none means there's no line, underline means it's underlined, overline means there's a line on top, and line dash through means it's crossed out. So let's experiment with this property. So I'll say, okay, text decoration, none. So now when you hover, the line disappears. We could even set it, for example, to overline, in which case the line appears above. I'll just use none. Other things we can do, maybe change the background color. Add some padding. You could even do something like increase the spacing between letters. Letter dash spacing. So now when I hover, the spacing will increase between the letters to 2 pixels. That creates quite an interesting effect. So feel free to experiment to make the hyperlinks look the way you want them to look. Other things we can do with hyperlinks is we can add a title attribute. You'll remember the title attribute allows us to create a tooltip. A tooltip basically means when you hover over for a few moments, it pops up a little tooltip with a message inside of it. So those can be quite nice to add onto hyperlinks. So that brings us to the end of our lesson on working with hyperlinks.